Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about never mind, the White House rescinds this crazy order basically freezing all the grant and aid money of the federal government with a few delineated exceptions for basically Medicare food stamps and a few individual recipient things. Okay, so this is now, the whole story is now a story of a complete amateurish stepping in it pratfall by the administration. Let me just review what happened, but keep in mind that that final conclusion, which it looks like a total Keystone Cops moment. So in the fusillade, the carpet bombing that they're doing all over the government, was probably as broad and broadly hurtful to people as anything. They basically said, we're just freezing everything. Now, the everything here is monies appropriated by Congress already passed. So this is third grade stuff. Congress passes bills, says spend this money on these programs, please, or not even please, Mr. Executive. Our job is to pass. Your job is to execute. And so it was breathtakingly cheeky to issue this order from the OMB saying, we're freezing everything indefinitely. It's really the same as saying, we're just not going to comply with congressional commands. No one had ever done it before, and it immediately triggered multiple lawsuits and an area of law known as impoundment, where its overwhelming view, but it's never had to be tested before, is you can't just shut down and ignore Congress like that. There maybe is some room in the joints for a little bit of delay or marginal withholding for some strong discretionary reason by the executive. But this was basically Trump saying, I control the law. Congress has passed all these things, but I was now elected by the American people. There was a 2-page memo from OMB justifying it that was an embarrassment. It said basically nothing more than, now that Trump is elected, he has to be it's his job to really make sure we're getting the most out of every dollar. Therefore, we spend nothing that Congress has ordered us to spend. And it was a similar kind of thrust to the press conference at the White House yesterday, where the total, MAGA Kool-Aid drinking new press representative said basically what a great thing Trump is doing for the American people, being sure that money is well spent. And that, of course, was just another way of saying negating congressional commands. So anyway, the lawsuits went ahead and a stay had already been granted. It was a temporary stay, only lasting until next Monday. And that was because there's no doubt that this is at a bare minimum, very dubious and would have to be litigated. And the question is, in the meantime, do you hold the administration? Do you freeze it and say you can't put it into play until then? And the only argument the administration had was these groups had come very quickly in to sue, but they hadn't had time to identify individual plaintiffs who had been hurt by the department's order. There are millions who you could find, but they came in too quickly. But basically, that was the opening for the Department of Justice, which is going to be representing Trump and all these overbroad, cruel, inane maneuvers, said, well, they can't show for standing purposes, a word you probably know by now that says you have a right to be in court. There are these groups here, but they need to show individuals who have been harmed. And the judge said on the bench, look, this has just happened. You came out of nowhere. It's understandable. I'm going to freeze things for 3 days. And by then, plaintiffs, please supplement your complaint so we also can show individuals who have been harmed. And there was no doubt that they were going to be doing that. And that's where things stood as of this morning. And then we have the sudden withdrawal of the order, never mind of the whole thing. It had engendered, by the way, confusion, a big mess, and a really kind of Keystone Cops silly 24 hours because it wasn't clear what they wanted to exclude, what they wanted to reach. And we're talking about people who are, calling in a terrible panic. Do I get my mental health suicide prevention? Do I get my HIV treatment? Do I get the aid I need to live day to day? And OMB had no idea what it was doing. So I think in large part, one, this was probably something they were thinking, was a sacrificial lamb and they were going to lose anyway, but it's in keeping with Trump's conduct of just, making all trouble possible and just worrying about not what the law provides, but what he could try to get away with. But that now they were so chaotic, they didn't know their own head what they were doing. And so they withdrew it, I'm sure, after hours of crisis-soaked discussion in OMB. They look like idiot stewards of the common good and the economy. But that's the end. We'll see if they try to spiff it up and reissue and we start again where we had been, but it may be that it's just a total chapter of complete incompetence and fecklessness here in these early days of the Trump administration. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.